welcome to another episode of the Match Slip podcast. My name is Frank Angeloni, and today I'm talking with store owner Adam from Owl Central Games in Millersville, Pennsylvania. Adam, how you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing well, Frank. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. So I saw on your website it said Millersville, Pennsylvania. Where would you relate that in terms of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh for those that may be unfamiliar with the area?
So we were about an hour or so west of Philly, probably about like 4 hours east of Pittsburgh, maybe like an hour and a half north of Baltimore, too, to give you a better triangulation. But yeah, we're around that location.
And what's the store's origin story? How did it come to be? How many years have you been in business for?
Oh gosh. Okay, so this is fun. So we opened the physical store in 2015. The way it came to be was it was originally okay. So there's three guys involved who are myself. There's Ken Adams, Matt Gargiulo, Wes Moss, and originally it was Ken and Matt were buying and reselling stuff on Amazon, and they were doing it out of Ken's mom's house. And in the the springish April of 2015, Wes Moss and myself came up. We had the original store was in Reading before we moved to our current location, and Wes had been reaching out to me and saying that we wanted to start a physical storefront and not just do it out of Ken's mom's house. So me and Wes came up, and then we opened up the physical store in our previous location in Reading, and that was where we were starting. But it actually originally started in Ken's mom's house, and the name Owl Central Games had came from when they needed to, I forget if it was to make the website name first or if it was to incorporate the business name. It was probably to incorporate the business name first. That part of the story gets fuzzy for me, but it went like this. Someone looked around Ken's mom's house and said, "It looks like Owl Central in here," because she had all of this like owl, just stuff, memorabilia, trinkets, and things like that. So that's where the name came from. And then yeah, that's how we got the physical store started. And yeah, from there, we just started growing more and more. But the idea of having like a physical store there too, like for me, Wes, Ken, and Matt, like we all had a game store growing up that we went to and that meant a lot to us too. So there's a lot of that as well, like being able to provide that for like the next generation, a place for kids to come and hang out and have fun and play games. And I guess to take it back even further too, like the four of us like all knew each other from when we all used to work at Star City Games. We all spent a fair amount of time there together, and me and Wes had known each other since we were like teenagers. So we really wanted to do something that that we had enjoyed that was like not necessarily how Star City did things, but how we wanted to do things and provide that to the community.
So that's really neat. I didn't realize that. So Star City Games is based in Virginia, in
Yeah,
Roanoke. So are you originally from Virginia?
yeah. So I'm originally from. I always tell people I'm originally from Roanoke because no one knows where Franklin County, Virginia is. But yeah, that's where I'm originally from. I worked at Star City as a summer job when I was in high school. So I'd been working in the industry since I was like 15. I'm 38 now, so I've been doing this for a long time. I worked at Star City off and on up until about 2012, and then I did a few things here and there, jumping around until 2015, and then 2015 is when we opened the store up here in Pennsylvania.
Very cool. And you mentioned you were a player at that point in time. Were you playing in a lot of like the SCG tours and the invitationals and stuff like that, like the competitive events?
I worked almost every event. My job at that point, once the tour was like building up, my title was kind of the titles were all kind of made up. Sales booth, head of sales event thing. Basically, if you came up to the booth at a show and you wanted to buy some cards, you were talking to me or you were talking to some of the people that we had hired when we traveled around to like other locations. So I was managing that like mobile storefront kind of thing at that time.
I see. And when you were able to play, what games did you like to play?
Magic was, what got me into, doing all of this in the first place. There were other games too that I enjoyed, like the World of Warcraft trading card game. That was one that I really liked. I played that a lot. I qualified for Worlds the first year that they did it out in San Diego. I managed to day two Worlds. But other than that, my Magic career is not really. I would not call it a career. It's like I've got a handful of like PTQ top eights, and I had like a deck that I made in like 2007 time spiral-ish area that like got on the radar, and I saw people play it at their states the following week. So that was like my 15 minutes. I put together, a collection of cards that people were like, "Oh, that seems all right," and they played them too for like one weekend. So that's like, yeah, that's the limit to my like my Magic career. I've mostly I've mostly been on like the other side of the counter as opposed to the player side.
At least you got to play in some PT top eights. I would like to just make the top eights at some point. That would be a goal of mine, just to get into it.
Well, just to clarify, PTQ Pro Tour qualifier, not Pro Tour top eights, PTQ top eights. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah,
either way, still a good accomplishment. That's still hard to achieve.
yeah,
So
for
once
sure.
once you left Star City Games, you mentioned the store was originally in Reading, Pennsylvania. What was the reason for the move?
So well, for a while actually, when we were in Reading, uh, the things that we were dealing with were the building itself was not the greatest. It was in need of some improvement, repairs, some love that we didn't have the resources for. And we were also, me and the other guys, we were just getting older and we're, getting married. And we were moving out of Reading to like nicer area, which brought us out to Lancaster, right here near Millersville. So we were also moving out like in this direction too, and it was just starting to become more of a slog of having to drive to Reading. And once our lease was like ending in 2019, or sorry, I guess January 2020 to be exact. That's what our lease ended, and we started looking for a location that was closer to us, closer in proximity to the our warehouse that we use. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what had brought us out here in the first place. And then right when that happened, so I mentioned January 2020. We were open for about 6 weeks in our new location after we had it all like built out and everything. And then the pandemic hit in March of 2020. And then we had to immediately shut down our storefront, which was a huge shock. Left a lot of uncertainty there for what was going to go on, but we were able to shift things over to a lot of our online sales. And I mean, thankfully, through a lot of effort of people coming in and doing orders and keeping a lot of that online business going, we were able to stay afloat through all of that.
And how much these days now are the online sales a benefactor for the business when compared to like the in-person sales from existing players that come into the store?
It's a big part still. Like we, we definitely need them. The storefront sales, though, like have been really good ever since the pandemic started to lighten up and lift, and we were able to start running events again. There was the huge boom with Pokemon over the last couple of years that we were able to benefit from significantly. Pokemon sells really well in our storefront, as well as Magic. So I would say that the online sales are super important, but our retail like foot traffic and our retail sales are also like very very good. For the area, and very thankful for that too, because it could have definitely gone a different way, post pandemic. But yeah, yeah, online sales still very important.
Definitely. And I'm glad to hear things are going good, even post pandemic, and you were able to get through the pandemic as well. And you
Mhm.
mentioned Pokemon because I've heard a lot of stores actually bring up the boom of Pokemon and how it's been beneficial to the store. And I wanted to get your take as to why it's been beneficial for Owl Central games. But first, I guess we could start off prefacing that with why do you think the boom for Pokemon has occurred? Like, what started that? Because I've kind of wondered that myself. Because as a kid, more of just the card game, but people didn't really play the game.
So my take on it, my speculation on it is probably not too far off what I imagine most people's is, which is I mean at this point the game is a generational game. Like the people who were playing it when it first came out, like at an older age now have kids and their kids are enjoying Pokemon. So it's a thing where like I've heard this story plenty of times where it's like, well, I had a bunch of Pokemon cards sitting in my closet and then I gave them to my kids or I gave them to my nieces, my nephews, and it's it's got that like nostalgia factor going for it, a bonding thing going for it. You don't really need to play the game to enjoy the cards because a lot of people's entry into just the Pokemon IP is the video games, which already encourages you to collect. Like it's such a brilliant tagline, got to catch them all. Like and it really like you know encourages you to just like find things that are Pokemon related. So I would say like playing the game, not nearly that important of a thing to what's keeping it alive. I think during the pandemic, when we saw a bunch of Twitch streamers, cracking old packs and hyping up the idea that you could bust open these like cards that are worth millions of dollars and all these old packs. I think that helped contribute heavily to the younger generation who wants to go out and just like win the lottery basically, but do it in a fun way, cool way with Pokemon cards.
Mm-hmm.
I think that had a big part to it too. And plus, like the games are fun. I mean, I think the Pokemon games are fun. I think the card game is a fun card game. Like I got back into playing it again to try to help promote the events we were running at the store, like about a year ago. And the thing I noticed is that like most, the game it doesn't seem to be, at least not in our area, a very competitive game. Like there's a core group of players who will play, but most people who are involved, they just kind of want to experience Pokemon. It's less about you know, winning or losing. It's less about like playing the most competitive deck. It's about playing with the Pokemon cards that you like, right? Like if like my favorite Pokemon is Hitmonchan, but there is no good Hitmonchan right now in the game. But that doesn't matter because I have my Hitmonchan deck and I like Hitmonchan. So it helps, I think, to like there's a lot of Pokemon cards that aren't necessarily good on a competitive level. They're just the ones people like. So, those cards sell for two, three, $4, $5. And, all that stuff like adds up. Yeah. So like I know I threw out like a ton of factors, but I think it all kind of like plays together that helps like keep sales for Pokemon like up pretty high. Like going back to the card thing too, like in Magic, like what sells a Magic card is usually that it's good, right? But what sells a Pokemon card is that it looks cool. And there's a lot more room for a card to look cool, because beauty's in the eye of the beholder and all that jazz. So like the value of someone's Pokemon collection, the value of all these Pokemon cards, it's up to more, a greater interpretation, wider interpretation, I guess.
That's an interesting comparison. Something I actually didn't know, that Pokemon players tend to go based off of the way the card looks, and Magic players go based off the way how good the card is. Now, with those two things in mind, with Magic now having so many different variants of cards to try to appeal,
Mhm.
it almost seems like, based on what you've described, they may have gotten that inspiration, I would imagine, from Pokemon and seeing how people go after the visual collectible nature of it, and Magic
Yeah.
emulating that in their own way. So, how difficult is that when comparing Pokemon and Magic? Like, are there the same amount of variance as the plethora of variants that you see in Magic? Does that exist for Pokemon as well?
So I think you're absolutely right when you're saying that Magic may have been inspired by all the different versions for Pokemon cards, looking cool and all that. And I think that is 100% what happened. I think they saw that they could emulate that and go really deep on it. And that's something that I've seen Wizards do over time since the beginning, which is they find something that the market likes, and then they go really hard on it. Like if you look at right now, there's showcase frames and all the different variants. Like we had expeditions in I think Battle for Zendikar was when it started. And then people really liked those, and then they started doing the masterpieces, which is, expeditions. That's the same thing. And then I think Throne of Eldraine was when they started calling them showcase frames, and like, okay, we're just going to do this all the time now, and we're going to do it a lot. And now, like, there's so many variants. I think it's an overwhelming amount to me, but I'm also like getting older, so I'm starting to, hit my crotchety era arc. It's all new and different, but I think there's a lot of cool things about it. Having all these different variants for people to like find the one that they like specifically.
So how do you manage all those products and variants, like from a store standpoint?
Laboriously, it is it is so much more difficult now to keep track of all the different variants than it used to be. So it used to be your variant was, if was it foil or was it not foil, and that's like it. Condition is, sometimes would play a factor too, but now there is, okay, is it the standard issue version of the card? Is it a showcase card? Is it an alternate art? Is it borderless? Is it whatever new name they've came up with for a card? Or is it any one of those, but it's foil? Or is it like, sometimes they'll just make, like, there's a Teferi in one of the core sets. There was 4 different versions of that Teferi. And the collector numbers help to be able to identify it, but because we use TCG Player and we use Crystal Commerce and we use these other platforms that we have to work with, who all seem to have their own naming conventions, it's a real challenge to create an inventory management process that cleanly moves between one to the other. Like, we have basically like our own system that we've had to create to be able to keep in line with everything. But as more variants come out, and like recently this last set, Lord of the Rings, Wizards changed the way they do the card numbers. There's now 4-digit card numbers, which is great because they're making so many cards that needed to change somewhere. But that's just like another change that's happened. So like these universes beyond have foils and surge foils. The last set, or last set before last, has foils and halo foils. So now there's even variants on the foiling too, which all just kind of, creates more and more versions, variants of the same card. So it has gotten harder. It's not impossible, but it's definitely more of a challenge than it used to be, say, 5 years or so.
I could certainly imagine. I mean, just hearing you name it off, is even though I've known about it myself and I've talked to other store owners about it, it still is such a whirlwind to wrap your head around.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a lot of different things, and especially when you're like buying cards from players who are coming in who want to sell stuff, like you have to look these things up, and you need to know the exact version. Like, oh, this is a mystery booster card, or sorry, a card from the list, because it has that little planeswalker symbol in the bottom left. So like you have to be aware of that. Like, you don't necessarily know every card that's on the list. You might, but it's just little things like that you got to keep track of too, and just always be checking for. And yeah, it gets more challenging over time, but it is doable, but definitely a challenge.
Could you explain a little bit about the card numbers on, like, the Magic card, for example? Like, I'm looking at a Magic card right now, and I see numbers at the bottom left corner of the card. Like, for instance, this one's from Lord of the Rings. It's Mithril Coat. It's R0245. I guess the R means rare. Now, from a store standpoint, like, how does that, I guess, help you guys?
So this would, so we wouldn't be using the card collector number once we've already got it into our inventory. Something like this, so like Mythical Coat, for example. If you were a player and you came into the store and you're like, I want to sell my cards, or I'd like to sell these cards, and this card was one of the cards as we're going through, like we would look up to see what this card is selling for online. Mithril Coat would be a pretty easy one for us because there's not a bunch of different variants for it, or sorry, not different reprintings rather. We would know, okay, this one's the Lord of the Rings one. We try to be able to find it. But the collector number does help us, like when there is more than one version of it. So I guess like this one has a an extended art version and then a regular version, and then it has a pre-release version. It would just help us be able to lock in that we are looking at the right card, we're looking at the right pricing. We would be able to offer an accurate price to the customer for what we'd be buying it for. Once we've got it in, then we're just going by like the name, the set codes, which the set code is right below that number too. So Lord of the Rings is LTR, so that helps identify what the set is as well as the expansion symbol. But the set codes, the letters help a lot more for people who aren't as familiar with the symbols. But yeah, that's what the codes would just help us like lock in what version of the card when we're looking it up for the first time.
I see. And TCG Player is predominantly, I would imagine, where you're deciding pricing on. That seems to be the industry standard. I'm curious if you guys do the same thing.
It is. Yeah, TCG Player is the industry standard. We also will look at Amazon from time to time too. We do business on Amazon as well, but primarily TCG Player. Yes.
And where have you noticed more of the business when you split it up between Amazon and TCG Player? Where did the majority of those online sales come from? And do you think one platform is better than the other?
It it's different for different things. So if you were to Google, we've talked about this at the store a couple times. Like if you were someone who didn't play card games, right? You weren't involved in any of the community, the shared collective space of knowledge of Magic and Pokemon cards. Let's say your kid or your nephew or your niece was like, "Hey, I really like Pikachu. I really like Pokemon cards," and you were to, okay, well, let me Google buy Pokemon or buy Pikachu card or something like that. So if you do that, you are going to get an Amazon link. You are not going to get a TCG player link. TCG player is going to be below that. Like there's no store that's bigger than Amazon on the internet. So we found that for more casual things, Amazon can sometimes be the best way to sell something because that's just what people find first when they're not like super engaged into these like marketplaces. So like if you're looking at competitive Magic cards, TCG players are probably going to be the better place to sell them because the people who want like Oath of Druids or I guess what's Ragavan, that's like one of the popular played Magic cards. People are like, all right, I want a Ragavan. That person who wants a Ragavan knows TCG Player exists. They're going to go to TCG Player. But if a person's just like, okay, well, my brother's sister's daughter, you know, cousin, second removed or whatever. Okay, well, this person likes, Driftbloom Pokemon, so I'm gonna go find a Driftbloom Pokemon card, and they Google it up, and then they're just gonna get an Amazon link, and they're just gonna click on the first thing, and they're just like, okay, done. Like they're not gonna go any deeper. So if I had to say, a definitive thing, would be like, well, I think Amazon sells Pokemon better. I think TCG sells, Magic cards better. It's not 100% that way all the time, but that is the way that that seems to play out.
That's interesting because I've used both for buying Magic cards. So it's interesting to hear the store point of view from yourself. To hear the dichotomy between the two and what is the better seller on what platform. From a profitability standpoint, what is the better solution for a store like yourself?
Which, if I had to choose one, like what would be better profitably, or
I'm thinking more along the lines of profitability margin, because I'm sure the marketplaces, like even Amazon, like they're going to take a cut of the product sold. So I'm curious as to, from a business standpoint, what's the better option for Owl Central Games versus what you may be able to sell more in volume, say.
right? I would say that things list and sell for more on Amazon. So normally it's better when they sell on Amazon. The cut and stuff that both of those marketplaces are getting are pretty similar. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's pretty similar. Ideally, I would want everything to sell, in the store or on our website. So, we would get that would for us would be the best thing. But in general, things sell for more on Amazon than they do on TCG Player. Um, so I would say Amazon. but our volume of sales that we do is probably more on TCG Player, and that probably has to do with the price being cheaper and we sell a lot of Magic cards, and most Magic cards are going to sell through TCG Player.
And I would imagine with TCG Player, because you're up against so much competition, how do you choose a price that is competitive, but also has the potential to land you the most business? I'm curious if an old game store I used to go to, I could just give an example. I know they used to operate based on looking at the market price and the median, and they would go somewhere in the middle of that. So I was curious if you guys operate on a similar pattern.
So we have some I guess some industry, some like trade secrets or things like that. We have a formula and a program that me and Ken wrote together that basically does all of our pricing for us, for all of our inventory. Whenever we need to like make updates or revisions or things like that, we just run our inventory through the program, and then it spits out numbers, and then we just go with those numbers. We'll spot check them here and there and make sure everything still looks right like we think it should be. But yeah, we have a super secret special formula, but that's how we do it. It's looking at other people's prices and what our current like stock numbers and inventory numbers look like. It's nothing that's like insane, but I'll be honest, the way the exact formula works, I don't remember. I just know that I coded it based off of what Ken told me, and then it seems to work. So we just keep running with it.
What happens if like prices fluctuate and like either go up or down? Like, do you have to change something about the program, or does it kind of handle that for you?
So we update prices on a pretty regular basis. If prices for something like spike, like going up, I mean, depending on where we were exactly, we're probably just going to sell through all of it. And like that's happened before, but the way we look at it is like, if I bought something for $2 and then I have it listed at, let's say, $4, or just buy, the old standard, buy for one, sell for two. I mean, I'm happy that it sold for two. Obviously, I want to get as much out of it as possible. I also want to sell it. Like I don't want to just have it for forever. Um, but there will be times when like we see something, or there's ban restricted announcements, or we hear through the grapevine that something's going to be good. We'll go in and we'll make adjustments on our own. But normally we just let the repricer, like our little program, try to catch things as we make adjustments. When prices go down, obviously it's not going to sell. It's just going to sit there, and it's just going to be caught the next time we do price adjustments.
Very interesting. So that's definitely a unique thing that you have your own program for determining pricing, for the cards you sell. What other things about the store in general would you say make it unique, whether it be something interior wise, exterior, the way the store is run? What's something you would say is unique about the store that you haven't seen elsewhere?
I mean, it might sound cheesy. I think our staff is amazing, and I think our staff is a very unique collection of different personality types that all complement each other very well. I think that helps us tremendously between both our back of house and front of house. Everybody gets along so well, and I think when players come in, community members come in, customers come in, like I think they see that we're very friendly, very welcoming and inviting, very inclusive, and we try to really let everyone see that. I think that's such an important thing to having a successful game store. People will say your friendly local game store, and the friendly part is huge. That's a huge part of it. I've definitely been in stores that are not welcoming. They're not inviting. They're pretty cold, in the sense that like the people working there, they're just doing a job. They're not having the time of their life. I mean, I'm not gonna say everyone working at our store is having the time of their life, but you know what I mean. Like you can get that feeling when coming in that like this person doesn't really want to be here. I mean, I think that's and I would hope that every store would say that about their staff too. That we just we have the best staff. But when I say it, like I truly mean it. Like I think everybody does a really good job of compensating for everybody has their own strengths, and I just the way we have our staff like stacked up, like we're just very good at like complimenting what how each other person works. I think it's our strongest feature. Like during the pandemic, we had people coming in, helping and working still and getting stuff done, like make sure orders got out. During whenever there's like call outs or anything, our staff is like very quick to be able to, cover things. They're just great. I mean, they're amazing. I could go on and, tell stories about each individual person. I just think that's such a huge thing that what we do is our inclusiveness, the environment that we create and cultivate for our community to try to like drive, that friendly like place to come and play, that place for you to be able to just come and hang out. Um, yeah, I think we push that a lot. I think the community sees it, and I think that's why we get just so many people in the store.
How many employees do you currently have at the store?
So right now in our store, so we just hired part time. I think two part-time people. So the numbers changed again. I think we're at 10 people total. I'm gonna go with that. I think we're about like 10. It might maybe 11. We're looking at hiring another part-time person too, so that number is going to change here shortly.
Are there any full time employees as well, in addition to the part timers?
Yes. So we actually only have two part-time people. So I think it's like eight full-time people working at the store right now.
Okay. And does everybody have like a specialization that they do? Are they, for lack of a better word, generic, retail employees, or is there specialization of what an employee might be assigned to do or what they do based on a background they have?
Everybody's got specific things that they are responsible for. A lot of work that retail usually covers is helping customers, engaging with customers, engaging with community as they come in and such. But there is downtime, so everybody has tasks that's related to what their strengths are to do during that downtime. And one of the things that we try to do, that we strive to do, is to constantly be asking for feedback from staff on what it is that they're doing and what they like about it or what they don't like about it, what they want to change, if there's something that they would rather be doing that they see that the business needs, or something that they see someone else doing and they're like, hey, I'm really interested in, you know, processing Pokemon cards as opposed to doing buys in the storefront. What can we do to have me process more Pokemon inventory? Because all those things are important, and contribute toward the business making money, and us being able to pay everybody. So we want to put people on the things that they want to do. So yeah, everybody's responsible for unique things. And working in the storefront, obviously, you got to help customers when they come in, but there's definitely downtimes that people are able to get the tasks that they like done.
And I thought it was pretty cool. I saw on your Facebook page that you recognize new employees by, announcing who's joining the team. That I just thought was a nice little touch. Something I haven't seen any other, stores doing is, talking about the people behind the store.
Yeah, like I mean, everybody who works for us who becomes part of the team, like I mean, it really is that is team effort. Everybody working together. It's important for us to make sure everyone who is at the store, enjoys being there. Um, People don't want to work a job they don't like, and we want everyone to, to like like working there. Yeah, this is a big push that Alberto at our store, our general manager at our store, has been doing. He became our general manager back in I think it was February earlier this year. He does a lot with pushing a lot of things on social media, along with our social media coordinator Dan, who takes a lot of these pictures, makes a lot of our commercials and ads. They work a lot in conjunction together to make sure that all the stuff that we are presenting to the public, looks crisp, looks clean, looks good. Yeah, those guys do a really good job. So yeah, all of these pictures and stuff you're seeing on Facebook with yeah, like new staff come, welcome to the team. That's those guys getting that done.
That's very cool. And what Adam is your specific role with the store?
So In February, I was the general manager. My job had kind of been the same since we had opened, which was make sure the store opens that day, make sure it runs. But we made a big change back in February, where my job now is a lot more ethereal. It's more so my official title at this point now, I guess, would be tech guy, where a lot of things that I'm doing are involving like keeping track of like HR records, doing updates on any of our like infrastructure with regards to technology, writing any like applications, like programs and stuff that we use internally, helping out where I can when I have the free time. But and recently here, I've been doing more with our inventory itself, like the digital part of our inventory, like making sure pricing and stuff is getting accurately updated. So I have this more like out of store experience than I did since February. But yeah, so yeah, if it's tech related, everyone's got like an issue with anything like that. They usually give me a call, or when I'm at the store, I'll deal with it.
I see. And was it your idea? I would imagine. I guess I'll start off. You manage the website.
Yes, yeah, that is true. Yeah, so right now we're in a transition of a new website. We're getting a new website made by some of the local guys here. Shout out to Pixel and Hammer; those guys are really cool. They're working on making a new site, and that is a project that I've been working on as well. But yeah, anything that's on the website is I'm the person putting it up there right now.
I asked because there was a very cool thing I thought you did, like to draw people into like a game they may not know about or a product. I like your picks by like Kyle, Adam, Berto. I just like that featurette that you have on the main website. Whose idea was that to start that, and how is that translated from a business standpoint?
So it's actually a feature of Crystal Commerce. Right now, our whole website is just a Crystal Commerce website, which is how we do a lot of our inventory management, and the picks by people. This was a feature that they have. We did just kind of like throw some games up here. Um, it's one of the reasons why we're actually looking to build a new website, and try to relegate Crystal Commerce toward being more of just our shopping cart, and our new website giving us more control over things, something that can look a little less cookie cutter, I guess, is one of the big things. There's a lot of issues we've run into with trying to get Crystal Commerce like technology to do the things that we want on that public facing side of things. So we're trying to transition away into this new website. The pick spy stuff was literally just me going around asking, hey, what do you like to play, and then getting the feedback, and then just like throwing stuff up there. But that was a Crystal Commerce feature that we were just trying to take advantage of.
It reminded me, as someone like myself who's a fan of comic books as well, it reminded me of walking into a comic book store and seeing like, this is the pick of the week by, whether it's the owner, whether it's the, one of the store employees. So I thought it was just a nice touch, even though, something that was just a product offering of the platform. Just something that piqued my
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anything that like personalizes it is good in my opinion. That's part of that whole like being welcoming, inviting kind of thing. You're not just it's not just a store. It's a place where people live and breathe. So yeah, anything that's personalizing things for people, I think is important, and helps let people know that you're actual like humans. You're not just NPCs.
Right. Just not another number, a one or a zero.
Hmm.
I
That's
really
right.
I really like too the way you have the menu laid out for Magic singles, and I saw it was like that for the other games on the website as well. So if we just took, for example, like you were looking for Magic the Gathering singles, and you were looking my favorite set of all time, Mirrodin, and you were going to expand that, and I went to it out of curiosity, and I saw you even have a little description of the plane, which was just a cool little like another tidbit. I mean, it's very enthralling, I guess is the word I would use. Like it really is like a captivating, like little personal touch you're adding to something that instead of just going to a website, which we all do every day and looking to buy something, that it gives you a little background of what the plane might be. Even if you already know about it, I thought it was, again, another human element to it, a little more personalization. So, and it makes it very easy to find whatever card you may be looking for. And it looks like, to my eye, that it would be quite time consuming when you first were setting up all the categorization of the menu. Is that true?
So I hate to burst your bubble, and I would love to take credit for it, but that's also just something that Crystal Commerce just like does, which I think is that's a good thing that they do. But yeah, I mean, I can't really speak on it, but I would say it looks pretty time consuming to me. I guess a lot of things on our website too do just kind of get auto generated by Crystal Commerce, which it's more of it sounds really nice at first, but like it does become like this hindrance over time where there's a lot of things we can't customize
Mm-hmm.
because of the way that Crystal Commerce has it set up, which we're working on making our own site for those reasons. But like if you want to take a look at something that we've actually made and like we've like engineered into Crystal Commerce, like if you go at the top of our website, you can see we make these landing pages for the new sets that come out. So right now, Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle Earth, um, we can make custom web pages inside of Crystal Commerce, and then we can link them around the site. And so that's one of the like web pages that we had made to help like link things. We try to like not have it be too text heavy for people like on mobile and stuff like that. But you can take a look at that if you want to see something that we've done. But yeah, a lot of this just gets like auto created, and we don't really get much customization to it at all, which is, you know, a blessing and a curse. More of a curse now that we're trying to like be more customized. But
As a fellow web developer, I know the frustrations of dealing with platforms when you can't customize them the way you'd like to.
yeah, so like this will probably blow your mind. We can't use JavaScript on Crystal Commerce.
You're kidding.
I know, right?
Like that would seem like it would just be something that's just native.
Yep. Nope. Can't use JavaScript. So throw that out the window. Anything cool you want to do with that? Auto card, the feature or whatever. Nah, can't use it. If we wanted to make articles or stuff like that, because we've done that in the past where we've had articles with deck lists, but yeah,
Oh, so it's really tied down and pretty like
yeah,
locked.
yep, yeah. The deeper we tried, like I would say like the year before this year, and maybe a little bit before then too. Like I really started to try to focus on like doing more with our website, and the deeper I would go, the more I would learn what we couldn't do. So, yeah, that's why like our new, hopefully by the end of this year we'll have it to be able to show. But doing this new website that's going to like sit on top of this, and just relegate Crystal Commerce to a shopping cart. Hopefully this new website, we're going to have all this control and all of this bonus stuff that we're going to be able to do. I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, Crystal Commerce is good at what it can do. It just can't do a lot of what we want.
It has its limitations, so it's
It
yeah.
does,
So it's
yeah.
almost like at that point you feel like it doesn't do everything I needed to do, so I may just want to like customize my own own platform rather than because I've been in that boat myself where I'm like I could just I'd rather almost just customize something myself than using the platform.
Yeah. It was great in the beginning when we just needed something fast and that we could get up really quick. And its inventory management system does link to TCG Player and Amazon, which was a huge selling point for us. So we can have that like the shared inventory numbers. So we don't have to keep like double inventory or anything like that. So that part of it is great. There's no other sales channel that's TCG related like that does that. So for that they're perfect, but for other things we want to do, not so perfect.
Understood.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the customers that come into the store, what would you say like a ratio is of repeat customers versus new customers?
So when I was in the storefront, um, I tried to make it a point to learn people's names, learn everyone who comes in. I would swear I would see the same people in all the time, especially for events. Like that's when you really get to learn people because they're staying for hours. Learning their names is easier too because there's always pairings and stuff like that. I would say we have a huge recurring customer rate. I hesitate to say what an actual percentage is. I would say that it's very common. We get a lot of 5-star feedback on Google reviews, on Facebook. A lot of it's like, this was my first time in the store. I loved it. I can't wait to come back again. That's like, yeah, that's a statement that gets, paraphrased over and over and over again. Yeah, I think when people come to the store, they see how bright and colorful, not only the aesthetics are, the decoration of everything is, but just how bright, and cheerful all of the staff are too. It's just such a fun, welcoming place to come back to. I would say most customers who come in for the first time come in again.
That's awesome. And so if a new customer is walking in, like myself, for example, and I had never been to the store before, to give people an idea that are listening, how would you describe the store? Like they walk in, how big is the store? Like what visuals or whatnot would they see?
You'd be blown away. So we have some intentional layouts for the way we have the store. We have two entrances. We have a main entrance that you're most likely going to come in, as well as a side one. But if you come in through the main entrance, like you're going to immediately see a bulletin board with a bunch of new announcements, local community announcements as well. We let people post stuff up when they're, having their own like non game related events in the area, or they're trying to put together like D&D groups, things like that, like a community board. Once you get past that board, you're going to see like a natural like flow of merchandising that ranges from like clearance items, Pokemon, Magic, minis, board games. And as you're following all of that, you're going to see all of our trading cards, singles, as well. There, you're just going to be surrounded by all of this stuff to check out. And then, if you were to follow that path, it would take you to where our play space is, as well as where the restrooms are as well. Um, and from there you can hang out and be able to play. And if there's anything you need, like drinks, snacks, or you need new sleeves, or you want to come and browse things, you'll already know where all those things are because you had to walk past all of them to get to the play space. There's just tons of color, tons of posters of not just merchandise that are the stock posters that you would see at any store, but we also have these posters of our staff playing games like on these giant like wall posters of like the guys playing minis, me and Ken playing Magic, Pokemon, all that jazz. So like we are highlighting our staff in our aesthetics in the store as well, not just like the pictures on Facebook.
When it comes to the games offered in the store, how often are games held? Are they held every day? Are which are the most popular? I would imagine, based on our conversation thus far, Magic and Pokemon might fall into that realm. But I'll let you elaborate more.
Sure. Yes. So games are happening every day except for Monday. Monday we close early at 6. Our weekly schedule is Tuesday night. We have minis night. It's free to play. You're welcome to come by and check it out. We set up all the boards and everything for everyone to come in. It runs till 10 o'clock. Wednesday night we have Modern at 6. Yu-Gi-Oh at 6:15, and then Commander for Magic at 6:30. And I'll say Commander is our biggest event that we are running at the store. We actually also run it on Sunday, which I'll get to once I run through the week here. But Wednesday nights have been huge, have been packed. Our parking lot. We have like a side parking lot too. That side parking lot gets filled up. Our main parking lot gets filled up. It's awesome. The store is full. Wednesday night is a great night. Thursday night, we have Legacy that we do for Magic at 6, as well as Pokemon. Thursday night, also huge. Our Pokemon community has really like grown a lot and really like blown up, and I love to see it. Friday nights, we do FNM, of course, Friday Night Magic. We run both Booster Draft and Pauper as our offerings for Friday Night Magic. Both of those events do very well for us. Booster Draft has been really big recently now with Lord of the Rings, selling out of our like spots, our draft spots. So if you want to come and play for Friday Night Magic for draft, make sure you pre-register online. You do that on through our website, or you can give us a call and make sure you have a spot reserved. But we also do Flesh and Blood as well at 6:30 on Fridays. So 3 events. Friday night also packed, huge night. Saturdays we do special events, so it changes depending on what weekend it is. So you'll have to check out our website, owlcentralgames.com, so you can see what event we are running that Saturday. We have everything advertised and listed on our front page, so you can click through and see what event it's going to be. And then Sunday we do Commander for Magic all day. It starts at 1 o'clock, and then we do another one at 4 o'clock. It's just flights of pods that we do, and then people usually stick around and play. And that is probably our biggest event that we do. Commander was so big on Sundays, we added an extra night to it. That Wednesday night I was saying earlier, it's massive. Commander is the most popular format for Magic. It is super well received by players. And yeah, if I had room in the calendar to offer another night for it, I probably would.
Commander is definitely, I see it everywhere. Whatever store I've been to, it's always been a driving factor, for the business.
Yeah, it's skewed everything. It's skewed the way Wizards has like made products, that how they sell products. Yeah, it's affected everything.
It's funny too because I'm somebody who likes to build commander decks. I don't really play as much.
Hmm.
I tend to play, even though I'm like a competitive player, I'm more casual competitive. I love playing in RCQs and I love booster draft and constructed. But yeah, commander has definitely taken Magic by storm. But the thing that I was most intrigued by regarding the events that you hold, because out here on Long Island we run Pauper maybe once a month, as well as Legacy the last Saturday of the month. I love that you guys hold Pauper every Friday and Legacy every Thursday. That's awesome.
Yeah, we so Popper was a thing that around, I say, the middle of last year I started getting like really into. We played it back at the old store from time to time. Sometimes it did well, sometimes it didn't. I would say the format at the time, though, like back in like 2017, 18, 19, the format wasn't that great. Most cards couldn't. Well, I didn't really know the format that well. I would say that it wasn't like a well received format at the time. But ever since Modern Horizons 2 and some recent bannings to help like level off the power creep that had happened with the initiative mechanic, I think the format's been like really, really, really good. I was super interested in it, and I started putting together like a box that I called the Pauper box, and it's just got tons of Pauper decks in it, a bunch of cards for the format. Um, this is kind of like in its own little thing outside of our normal inventory, because keeping track of a bunch of commons to buy and sell, like it's really kind of like, it's basically a waste of time. Except I kind of take it on as like a, just like a little project, because we're, the cards are like a quarter, 50 cents. It's not really worth the time to try to buy those things. But
It's a lot of
yeah,
work
it
too.
is a lot of work and keeping all that stuff. So I keep it all like separate out of the main inventory. I just kind of manage it myself, just because I really enjoy the format. And we made a like, just we had a Saturday we needed to fill, so I was like, hey, let's do a big Pauper tournament. I was like, I have all these decks that I've made for the metagame. I'll lend them out to people to help encourage them to come play, and I have a bunch of the cards now, so maybe we can get people to show up for it. We had a huge turnout for the first event. I think we were like 30 some players for the first event. It was really, really well received. And then we had another free Saturday that had happened earlier in this year. We ran it back, did it again. Great turnout. You can see some of our commercials we started doing for it on that we put up like on Facebook, on YouTube, where the first event that we did, I had went 4-0, 8-0, just like undefeated. That was the whole thing, was that I didn't lose a single game. And I was just playing the red deck, right? Like I got lucky. I didn't play against any like Weather the Storms or anything. But we turned that into this whole like wrestling motif for like the promos, where I tried to connect with the Macho Man Randy Savage and do my best impression, and try to like goad people into coming to play to come and like beat me. And if you beat me, you get a crown. I started calling myself the Monarch, and keeping within the theme of the game, where like, yeah, if you beat me, you get the crown or whatever. And then whoever is the most recent person who's like won or whatever is the monarch. So we started doing that, and we really wanted to try seeing Pauper on Friday nights because we were trying to do standard on Friday nights and no one was showing up. And we're like, okay, well, what do we got to lose? Making this event on Friday night. We're getting a good turnout on these random Saturdays. Let's try it for F&M. And we've been doing it now, I think, for about 2 months, about eight weeks, I think, something like that. And yeah, we're getting like these great turnouts for Friday night. And what's really really cool to me is I've gone to every single one of them to help keep promoting them, and I see we're getting probably around like 17 to 20-ish, I think, players on Friday nights, which was less than those Saturday ones, but that's the kind of hit we expected. When it becomes more of a weekly thing, you don't expect to see as many people, but I see different people all the time. So it's really encouraging to me that, you know, we may be seeing a lesser attendance, but it's all I see different faces all the time. So, I know the community is very big, and the next time we do one of these like Saturday events where we're going to put a lot more pricing behind it, I have no doubt that we're going to see it be like a very big turnout. I'm really looking forward to it.
That's awesome. What did you do to make the Pauper scene grow? Because it's something at our store. If I include myself, one of the store owners, and we have a couple of other people. So there's four of us in total who really love playing Pauper, and we're trying to make it expand more to get more people interested in it. And I was just curious what approach you took to get more people interested in playing.
So I had two things that I focused on that I think are important when you're trying to get something off the ground, or I guess maybe three. One was we have our Owl Central Games Discord channel that we have, and one of them is our the rooms, the channels is our Popper one that we got going to be able to have a place for everyone to talk about the game. So now that there is a space outside of the event where people can still exist, together as a community. That part's important. Um, Two, people can't play the format if they don't have the cards, basically, right? Like as dumb as that sounds, like that's pretty much like the biggest barrier is people don't have popper decks if they never try to get into the format. And if they want to buy a deck, you can't really buy a popper deck at a store. Like nobody has 75 of these commons. They might have some of them, probably not many of them. So getting the cards was like the big first step. And going back to what I was talking about the popper box, I went first. I went through everything that I had personally, and then just okay, let me get all this stuff together. I'm like, okay, cool. Now, what am I missing to like build the rest of these decks? And then I just started building one of each of the decks in like a top eight, some diverse top eight that I saw. So I built those decks. I was like, okay, so now to push popper, I let everybody in the community in these like spaces know, hey, if you want to borrow a deck, message me, give me a shout, and it's first come first serve. You can borrow this deck if you don't have a deck, so you can just come and see what the format's like. And then for people who are wanting to like build the decks and buy their own decks, if they are missing cards, I would have most of them in the popper box for them to be able to come and get. So like making this like initial investment into the format so that others could be able to play at a more convenient level, I think is what helped get things like jump started, like get things off the ground. And now the people who are playing, like they're familiar with the channels of like, if you want to be able to get cards, you can either get them from us at the store, you can get them from TCG Player. But now that they have a lot of the cards, there's a lot of overlap between decks, right? Like if you're playing black in the Pauper format, you probably have four Deadly Dispute. Well, you can put those Deadly Dispute in all your different decks. If you have the lands and stuff, now you have the lands for all the decks. But that getting that initial investment, I think, out of players is the hardest part. So, and I said maybe there's three things, and that would be consistency, like doing all of those things consistently, like every week. We run Popper, every Friday. I show up for Popper every Friday to help, talk and engage with every single person who's there. I try my best to, say something or talk to, each person, acknowledge each person who's there, the best that I can. I try to stay active in our Discord channel. I try to ask questions to people, what have you liked playing? What do you think about this? How would would you keep this hand? Just asking questions a lot with our community members to promote their engagement with the store, with myself, and with other people too. Those were the things that I've focused on, and I think they're working. We keep firing the events, so um, yeah, I think those things are the important things. I mean, the biggest one is having the cards available for the players, right? It just needs to be convenient to play, especially when it's a format that they never played before. Like getting new players in, like you don't even have to worry about acquiring a deck. You can just borrow a deck. You can enter into the event. I got tons of decks for people.
That's a great approach. I think you've definitely made it easy for people to play, and that certainly I think is absolutely successful as to what you're doing and what you're continuing to do for it. And the consistency, like with anything in life, it definitely will pay its dividends when you're on top of it. And so I'm glad to hear it's doing well. I'll definitely have to pass along that information because we would definitely love to be getting more Pauper games in on our side here. So as we slowly get to the end of the interview here, I wanted to ask about a couple of other things that caught my interest on the website. And I noticed disc golf was one of them. I talked recently to Blade Gaming out in Virginia, and I was talking to Mike there, and he had told me that disc golf was, a thing that they were doing there, and it drew a lot of intrigue, their first event, and to see it now on your website as well. I'm curious how that's seen. This is very like foreign to me. So it's like my second time hearing or finding out about it. So how did that all come about?
So disc golf's like a very small part of what we're doing, but there is we acknowledge there's an overlap in players who would play Magic and play disc golf. I guess sorry. Let me start from the beginning. You said you were talking with Mike. Mike Hall is awesome. I just want to say that on the podcast. He's a
Yeah,
really
he's a
cool
good
guy.
guy, very good guy.
Yeah, yeah. If you ever get a chance for people already, or if you're going to be in Roanoke, go check out Blade. Those guys are awesome. But yeah. So Rage Against the Machine. Sorry, I was talking about Rage Against the Machine. I had this on my mind. This is one of my favorite memories with Mike Hall. I just want to share it. Um, I talked about playing the WoW trading card game earlier in the interview, and I had to make a drive on some Friday night to go up to DC from Roanoke, and I didn't have any of my CDs with me. I just really wanted to listen to the Rage Against the Machine album, the first Rage Against the Machine album. I had the songs in my head all day, and I randomly was just asking people as they were coming to play FNM, and Mike Hall was just like, "Yeah, I have that CD." He's like, "Of course I have that CD." He's like, "Are you kidding me?" And he let me borrow it so that I could have it for the weekend for the drive up. So that's like my favorite memory of Mike Hall. I just wanted to share that, but sorry. But so the disc golf thing, I first was exposed to this crossover when I lived in Orlando. I went to school down at Full Sail, and Cool Stuff Inc. was like the local store that I would go and hang out at, and they had stuff served for the disc golf community. They also sold disc golf, and that was like, I believe on their sign it was like Cool Stuff Inc. It was like Magic cards and disc golf or something like that. So that was the first time I got exposed to it. When we were opening up the store here in Lancaster, Ken was really into wanting to get disc golf. He plays, and we have a bunch of disc golf courses that are around us. I think there's like 3 or 4 that are pretty close to us. And we started stocking the discs, and they're like they're mildly successful sales item that we have on the floor. I don't think they're not super popular compared to the other things that we've got, and it's probably something that's going to just be completely phased out altogether. But just because we have a lot of competing interests with what we're trying to sell at the store. But there is, it's surprising to me still to this day that there is this like big crossover between those communities. But yeah, I don't really play myself, but you are correct. It is just kind of like a shock that it exists, but it's definitely very present, and apparently has been there for quite some time.
That's very interesting to learn. Yeah, I wasn't very familiar with like the history of it or where it came from. So hearing from Mike and yourself about it has given me a little bit of a background about what it actually is. But it seems like even outside of that, I mean, you guys have, I saw on the website, are you selling comics, figures? It seems like you're almost a full blown, novelty store of so many various things.
So we don't have comics. We do have some like the resin figures and things like that. Some of the collectible stuff.
Okay.
Um, when like some of the things that we have are more of like there for aesthetics. We don't go too deep on them. But we do have like some of the like the collectible resin figures and things like that. Comic books not so much. We never really got into that. Although that's something that we've talked about from time to time. But at this point, I think the product lines that we're really focusing on are like we said before, Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Flesh and Blood, Warhammer for minis, and soon is going to be Disney Lorcana is going to be a product line that we're going to be very focused on as well. And those are going to be like our main sellers.
Okay, great. And with as you wrap up here, Adam, I was going to ask one final question, which is, what are your aspirations for the store? Like, if you had a goal, money aside, what is something you would like to see transpire with the store for either the near future or later on?
I love that you said money aside because that was definitely my smartass answer. So the thing that I personally would love to see is after we get the website up, I would love to see us have like a mobile companion app that goes with that. But even further beyond those things, I would love to see us have our own games that we like, provide and sell ourselves, even if it's like, little like quick, easy, like pen and paper board game type stuff that we're making, or even like little web games you can play on our website or through a mobile app or something like that. I would love to see us enter that space of games and find ways to make those things personalized for the people who are engaging with them. I have some ideas that are not fully formed at the moment, but looking at things like how Cards Against Humanity did stuff where you could just download and print their game yourself. Um, so you can have it for free, or you can buy it from them to have it like nicely made from them. I think that business model is very interesting, and it gets my little my spider senses tingling on some really cool ideas. But that's something that I would personally like to see the store doing in the future, is engaging in creating our own products and not just necessarily reselling things, having our own like Owl Central branded products.
That's a great goal to have. I hope it comes to fruition, and I'll be excited to see what you guys do with that in the future. So as we wrap up here, Adam, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Where could everybody find out more about Owl Central Games?
Yeah, check us out on owlcentralgames.com. We are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we are on Twitter. We have a Discord channel you can get to through any of our social media. If you happen to be in the Lancaster, Millersville area in Pennsylvania, stop by. Give us a shout. Come see how awesome the store is. And if you have any more questions, if you want to get in touch with the store or get in touch with me, you can give us a call at 610 929 2137.
Excellent. I'll be sure to include that all in the show notes so that people can get in touch and check out the store and also look into buying product from you guys. So, again, Adam, thank you again for coming on the show.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Frank.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining us today on another episode of the Match Slip podcast. If you would like to join our newsletter, you could sign up at thematchslip.com/newsletter, where I share reviews of the stores I visit in person. Additionally, if you'd like to leave us a voicemail that you'd like to have a question featured on a upcoming episode of the Match Slip, feel free to do so. You could do so at anchor.fm/thematchslip, and we will catch you all on the next interview. Take care.